Welcome to this 14th module of this course. We will be looking at data link layers, a specific function error handling in this particular module, and few other jobs of data link layer also is addressed in this particular module. We will begin with methods for error correction used at data link layer. Remember, we have looked at CRC in the previous module. It was the method for data error detection. We will be looking at error correction methods in this particular module. Error correction is better when you do not need to retransmit. It is better because once you receive a packet, you correct the error and just send it up. You do not need to wait for the retransmission, so it is faster. Okay. But then error correction, you do not only need to know that the error has occurred, but you also need to know exactly at which place the error has occurred and then invert that bit. For example, if 0 value bit 0 is converted to bit 1, you need to know exactly which bit is inverted and then change it. So, it requires additional efforts and that demands additional overhead as well. So, we will discuss about that too. A scientist called Richard Hamming worked on it and solved this problem and provided a method which is popularly known by his own name, is Hamming's method. So, we will be discussing that as well. Before we begin talking about error correction further, let us trace a very critical point called Hamming distance. What is a Hamming distance? Suppose you have a number that you sent and suppose the receiver receives something different. The difference, remember we have seen that thing, difference is the error, but then how many bits need to be inverted for converting one valid value into the other is also very critical. For example, if I am sending you, I have an AC and here are examples given on the screen. I just switch on and off, I have a remote control, I just type this thing, one is on button, the other is off button. When you press on, the command 110 is sent, when you press off, the command 011 is sent. Now, it passes through air and reaches to the air conditioner, but the atmosphere is very noisy and my code has every chance to be converted. Now, if there is likelihood of 2-bit error, what is the problem? The problem is, my first question is whether 2-bit error can convert one valid code into the other. In this case, it is so. Say 110, if you want to convert to 011, what I need to do is, I need to just change first and the last bit. Okay. I convert this 1 into 0 and 0 into 1, I will get. So, if 2-bit error can actually correct one valid value into the other. Now, that is what we would like to prevent, and that difference, 2-bit difference from two valid values is basically Hamming distance between these two values. Okay. For the same problem, if I use a little different code which is shown here, this code guarantees that I cannot change 2 bits to convert one valid code into the other, I need to at least change 3 bits. So, if there is a 2-bit error, the receiver will be able to catch. Okay. The code is erroneous, because if you change any 2 bits of this particular code, what you get is an invalid code. So, you know that there is something wrong. So, you can detect the error, but will you be able to correct that error? You will not, because you do not really know what is the original value. Okay. So, if I use the third code, now this is a specific code I need, and the Hamming distance is very huge, 6. I need to provide 6 alterations to convert one bit pattern into the other valid bit pattern. What does that mean? If there is any 2-bit error, for example, I receive 11011, I can easily understand is a 2-bit difference from this has to be the number, it cannot be this, because it is very far from it. So, that kind of difference can be provided. Okay. So, if I get something of that sort 111011, I know exactly that it is the first number and not the second one, because the Hamming distance is too large, two numbers are far apart. So, error moves that number little further to the other end, but does not move it very far to generate a dilemma in receiver's mind. So, receiver knows that is a 2-bit difference from a valid code, it has to be this code. So, you can correct that error. Okay. So, Hamming distance is a very critical value for us. Remember what we did, we expect 2-bit error, and if I keep the Hamming distance as 3, anything more than 2, I will be able to detect error. But if I double it actually, if the Hamming distance is more than 4, I will also be able to correct it, because 2-bit error will still keep that number near to the original code. Okay. So, that is the point here. Okay. This is again a general case which Hamming code talks about. Now, here we have m bit data and r redundant codes available to us. Let us try to understand what does this mean. Suppose if I have this data 1 0 1 1 0 0 1 1. Now, this is my data. Now, data can be anything. Okay. This can be any value 0, any form of combination of zeros and ones. Now, I add 4 digits, okay, 1 0 1 1 based on some combination of this value like CRC. Okay. So, these are redundant bits. This is actual data. Okay. So, the m is total number of data, r is total number of redundant bits, and the value that you send across is m plus r. So, we are just talking about that in this particular case. Okay. So, m plus r bit final value is sent to the receiver. Now, the point is, what I want is that if there is 1 bit error in the data, I should be able to correct. Okay. So, for that at least I should know that that number is invalid, that is the first and very important thing. And if I know that the number is invalid, what I can do is I can find out which bit is inverted based on some other calculation. So, first thing first, 1 bit error, if I want to catch 1 bit error, all numbers which has 1 Hamming distance away from this number must be invalid. For example, this is the value that I want to send 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. This is the value I want to send 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. Now, what I want to do is I want to get all values which are 1 Hamming distance far from this number. How do I get 1? I just convert one first bit. So, that is 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. Now, this is a number which is 1 Hamming distance apart, this has to be invalid. Second one, I will invert the second one. So, 1 1 1 0 1 0 1 0. The third one will invert the third bit. So, it is 1 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 and so on. Okay. How many invalid bits? If it is m plus r, calculating this, I need actually for every number I need minimum m plus r invalid patterns or invalid values. For one m plus r value that I am sending, I need m plus r invalid values. Okay. So, that is one thing. How do I get those values? Remember, this is the data, I do not have choice, it is coming from up, it is coming from network layer. So, data I do not have any choice, this is where I have the choice. If I am using 4-bit value here, okay, only 1011 is correct, other values are incorrect. What does that mean? That means that 2 raised to 4 total values, only 1011 is valid. Okay. Others 204 minus 1 values are invalid. Okay. Now, we have two things, we want minimum m plus r invalid values and maximum value that we have is 2 raised to r minus 1, where r is number of invalid bits. Okay. So, my equation is something like this, I need minimum m plus r, what I can get is 2 raised to r minus 1. So, I must get more number of bits than actually needed or at least equal to. So, I must get this value of r, I know what is m. Suppose if I say that I am sending an ASCII number, an ASCII number has 7 bits. So, for 7-bit ASCII value, what I want is the value of r, which is minimum value of r I want. Suppose if I take value of r as 3, what is the outcome? Let us try to see. Okay. So, it is 7 plus 3, that the left hand side is 10, 2 raised to 3 minus 1, that is 8 minus 1, that is 7. Now, this equation does not hold. So, 3 redundant bits will not solve my problem. So, let me take it 4. So, it makes it now 7 plus 4, that makes it 11, and it is 2 raised to 4 minus 1, that is 16 minus 1, that makes it 15. When this value is 4, this equation holds. Point is, the r value, minimum r value is 4. What does that mean? That means that if I am sending an ASCII byte of 7 bits, a character of 7 bits, I need 4 redundant bits minimum to catch 1 bit error, and Hamming actually provided a method where you can actually do it. Okay. So, let us talk about that. Okay. So, here the discussion which we had. Okay. This is the method. The method is again quite straightforward. See, there are 7 bit input M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6, M7, 7 bit inputs, 4 redundant bits 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, if you look from left to right and number as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 11, redundant bits are at the position of 2 raised to n. So, it is 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1, 2 raised to 2 and 2 raised to 4. We have 4 bits. Okay. So, this is precisely their position. So, we will place the redundant bits at 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1, 2 raised to 2 and 2 raised to 4 positions. Okay. So, here they are. Once we place them, the data is inserted. This data is 1 0 0 1 0 0 0. Now, that is the ASCII value of H, capital H. Okay. And this is what I want to transmit, but then during the transmission, if there is 1 bit error, I would like to catch. So, this is the process. So, I will write first of all the ASCII value of H here. Now, I calculate R1, R2, R3 and R4. Calculating R1, R2, R3, R4 again is not difficult, is very straightforward. Basically, they are parity bits, but they calculate parity for typical set of bits and not all bits. Okay. What are these bits? If you want to figure out what those values are, again look at this position, rewrite this position as multiples of summation of multiple of 2's. For example, 3 is 2 plus 1, 5 is 4 plus 1, 6 is 4 plus 2, 7 is 4 plus 2 plus 1, 9 is 8 plus 1, 10 is 8 plus 2 and 11 is 8 plus 2 plus 1. I am writing everything as summation of multiples of 2's. And now, if I want to calculate where M1 will be used, the parity bit. So, 1 and 2 it will be used in 1 and 2, not 3. This will be 1 and 4, this will be 2 and 4 and so on and so forth. That means, summarized as, for first redundant bits 1, 2, 4, 5 and 7 bits are to be calculated, and I am using an even parity. So, I am just adding those numbers. Okay. So, I will get that value and I am doing this modulo 2. So, 1 plus 1 becomes 0. So, eventually you can get this thing as 0. Similarly, when I calculate R2, same way, all M1, M3, M4, M5, N6 and M7, everywhere you have probably, if you see this thing you will see that M2 M plus 1, M3 4 plus 2. You will find, say for example, R2, 2 is R2, 2 appears here, 2 appears here, here, here and here. So, these values M1, M2, M3, sorry, okay, M3, M4, M6 and M7. So, they are, you can see that they are here. Okay. So, this is how they are calculated. So, same way R 3 is calculated and R 4 is calculated. I have now 11 bit value which I am sending across, the receiver receives it. If all R 1, R 2, R 3, R 4 matches, nothing better, the data is intact. What if there is a single bit error? For example, here is a case, I am recalculating R 1, R 2, R 3, R 4 and I am getting them different than what I am receiving. I get 1 0 1 1 which actually is 0 0 1 0. Okay. So, actual value is 0 0 1 0 and what I get is 1 1 1 1. So, what is wrong? 1 1 0 1. Now, this is the difference. Okay. What do they represent? Each bit represents something. So, you just this is the first, this is bit 2, this is 4 and this is 8. So, if I add their positions, respective positions 1 plus 2 plus 8, that makes it 11. That means 11th bit is inverted. Okay. And if you change the case, the previous case, change this value 11th bit, convert this 1 in 0 into 1, recalculate these R 1, R 2, R 4 values, you will exactly get this answer, telling that the 11th bit is corrupted. Okay. And you know exactly that bit is corrupted. So, you can invert that bit and accept that value now as correct. One great thing about Hamming code that it can find out 1 bit error, but I have already told you burst errors are most common, single bit errors are happen once in a blue moon. So, I want burst errors to be corrected. So, Hamming code also provides a solution to that problem, a very interesting solution using the same method, very method that we have looked at. We can repurpose that method, change that method in applying it for a burst error. How that is done is shown here. Suppose if I have data, here are my data, first data, this is my first data, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8. I have 8 bytes to send. I convert all these 8 bytes into Hamming code, first 11 bit entity. So, this is a 7 bit entity converted to 11 bit. So, I just do it. Okay. First of all, I apply Hamming code to all of them, and I get all of them here, each one of them. Now, what I am doing? I am sending the first one as the first column here, second one as the second column here, and so on. So, in fact, I am sending 8 columns. Now, 8 columns are here. So, I am sending when I am actually I can only send a row. So, I will send this one first, then this one second, third and so on. So, this column, this data is actually sent this way. So, the first row that I am sending, actually sending the first value of data 1, first value of data 2, first value of data 3 and so on, that I am sending first, then second value of data 1, third value and so on. So, that is what I am sending. Okay. If there is an error somewhere, okay, somewhere suppose this particular byte has a burst error, what receiver is doing? Receiver is again adding them and looking at. Now, when this columns are sent and there are multiple errors here, okay, some error, these rows will sorry, I am sending column by column, one after the other. When I am sending columns, if there is an error somewhere, okay, there is some error somewhere. So, that error when you look at this thing is reflected as 1 bit error in multiple rows, okay, wherever there is an error. When those multiple rows experience error, there is a single bit and you can always recalculate the Hamming code to get those values back. So, that is the power of Hamming code which you can use for burst errors. However, Hamming code is almost lost its relevance today, because there are far better and different type of codes are available, error correcting codes. Quite interestingly, this new era of error correcting codes involves a lot of artificial intelligence into it. What do they do? In fact, we are going to look at 3 different types of codes soon. All 3 of them have one thing in common. What they try to do is to guess what is the input based on the output. Do not go for hard code values, but try to guess, not only guess on the basis of what is coming, but on the context as well, and try to have multiple guesses and then use some intelligent method to choose the best guess out of it. That makes it better correcting. Okay. So, even if the data is lost somewhere in the middle, it try to make sure that you get the best answer out of it. It is very human like. Humans do it whenever we, for example, if you listen to a phone call from a friend and the conversation misses some words, you use your own intelligence and experience to figure out what could be those words. You do not need to actually let your friend repeat those words, and that is the power of guessing and intelligent mechanism which is being used here. We will begin with a code called Voyager code or convolution code or NASA code. There are 3 different names. NASA gave this code for Voyager when they started that Voyager mission, and later on they allowed others to use that, and it is an open source now. So, anybody can use it. It is a very simple code, but very powerful, which could correct single bit errors to very high probability. Okay. And now, at this point of time, GSM phones that we use 802.11 that we discussed about, many speech recognition softwares and even text to speech softwares use this convolution code. Okay. It can withstand heavy errors and can correct them, and more suitable for single bit errors, but anyway it can correct more errors, more number of single bit errors. Okay. NASA used it for Voyager, as I said. This is critical. In case of, if you remember the Hamming code, the input bits do not change in the resultant form which is sent across. In case of Voyager code, input bits change. Sometimes one input bit generates 2 output bits. So, it is called non systematic. It is not systematic, it will not generate same input bit in the representation which is to be sent. It is not even block code. A block code operates on blocks of inputs. In case of Hamming code, it operates on 7 bit entities. Okay. You can use Hamming code for 8 bit entities or 10 bits entities and all that. You will have to choose the redundant bits accordingly, but otherwise it was a block code. Voyager code, this convolution code is not a block code. That is a very important difference. Okay. The one more thing is that it will not decide the output based on the input bit only. We will also look at the context to decide the output bit. Now, that is a very interesting thing. It is again, if you look at how somebody recognizes speech, you can understand. If you hear a word, you do not take that word only, you just look at the context and determine what the speaker has spoken at that point of time. Okay. So, the context makes very critical difference to recognition process. The same thing happens here. So, the input plus the context, in this case it is last 32 bits, determine the value of an output bit. Okay. So, that is what precisely done here, and it also does something which is called soft decision encoding. Remember, we discussed about digital signaling, and we said that it is good. Why? Because it can detect correct errors. So, for example, if I have +5 and -5 and I get 4.5, I can always conclude that to be 5 and go ahead. In case of convolution coding, when I get 4.5, it says that it is most likely to be 5, but it can be -5 as well. It is kind of information that is available to me. Will not hard decide that it is 5, will let it go and let the receiver decide, kind of a strategy. Because as I said, sometimes there is a heavy noise and it converts -5 into 4.5. If you do hard encoding, hard decision coding, you forget that, you miss that. Here you won't. So, that is the power of convolution coding. As I said, this is better for single bit errors. So, for other parts, if the heavy burst errors are coming in, you need to use it in conjunction with some other code, and the next code that we are going to talk about called Reed-Solomon code is basically used with this code. Okay. But before we talk about Reed-Solomon, let us look at how convolution code functions. Data continuously come in, it is not a block code, the bits continuously come in and older bits are going out. We have some context, and that context this is happening. Output bits decided by input and based on the internal state will use. Okay. In case of 802.11, a single input bit generates 2 output bits. Okay. Like this, let us look at this thing. So, there is an input bit, and you can see that not all bits are XORing. Okay. Some bits are getting XORed here 1, 2, 4, these 4 bits are XORed here 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6 bits are getting XORed. So, whatever value, this is called output bit 1, output bit 2. So, for one input bit you get the 2 output bits. Okay. For better context awareness, you need longer constraint length, the internal state. Okay. Number of possible guesses increases exponentially if you increase that context length. Now, the solution is to use some other algorithm with this, and one of them is Reed-Solomon code. Now, the idea behind Reed-Solomon code is pretty simple. Instead of having a single bit, you have a single byte as an entity. So, anywhere there is an error, the entire byte is an error. So, it is very simple mechanism, and that is good if you have burst errors confined to byte. So, you still have one byte in an error, and there is nothing difficult there. Okay. And if you have total R symbols, you can correct R by 2. For example, if you have 32 bit 32 symbol redundant symbols you have, which is a normal process, one of the most used Reed-Solomon code uses 32 redundant symbols. So, it is used in 802.11. So, that 32 symbols will catch 16 symbol errors. So, 16 into 8, okay, 128 bits error can be corrected in 802.11. So, that is the power of this code, but it uses hard decision encoding, remember it is not soft decision, will not be AI based. Okay. And the process is little clumsy, but straightforward if you are a mathematician. What you are sending is called Px. You divide it by something called Gx, the receiver you multiply it by Gx, receiver divides it by Gx, okay, and you get the data back. Okay. And there is a typical code which I was talking about, is called 255223 code. Okay, is a Wi-Fi solution, is used with 802.11, which is where the R value is 32 symbols. That means it can catch 128 bit errors. Okay, that is what I was talking about. Two more codes which are getting more popular. One is called LDPC. LDPC is used in 10 gigabit Ethernet, and turbo codes are used in 2G, 3G, 4G and LTE codes. Now, you can see that they are quite recent, they are more AI like. The LDPC code has a matrix and contains some parity values. Okay. So, in case of Hamming code, you have a 4 bit simple single dimension array. Here you have m into n big array, a matrix where some values are 1, most values are 0, that is why it is called low density, and based on that it will calculate the possibility of error. Actually, it will continue revising that, eventually you will get the output which is most nearer with least error. Okay, it is an iterative process. Okay. And turbo code is something which applies to there are 3 stages applied and will correct the error. Turbo code is again soft decision encoding code. Detection versus correction, I have already discussed that. Detection is good when the errors are less, correction is good when the errors are more. Okay. The second point is redundant bits, number of redundant bits you need for correction is more than number of redundant bits that you need for detection. So, the overhead is more for correction. Error detection is more robust, okay, it will definitely catch the error. So far, looking at the LDPC and turbo codes, is quite likely that it will become as robust as this thing. Flow control is one more thing which I discussed earlier. I am just going to recap what is flow control, how flow control happens at this layer. There are two cases: movie is being downloaded from web server to mobile. My mobile is not all that fast. So, the fast sender, slow receiver is one problem. As all of the students started submitting the assignment at the last moment, the server is capable to handle, but when all students do it together, the combined input coming to that is too much for the web server to handle. Basically, this is a problem called flow control, which requires it to be managed. Okay. So, we discussed about that, we will continue talking about that in future as well. We will be discussing about that in subsequent modules. We will also, data link layer will also have to manage discussing. It will take data from network layer, send it across using physical layer, and the physical layer, the receiving end, the physical layer should accept it, pass it to it should accept from the physical layer and pass it on to the network layer. Okay. And the final discussion is that every data link layer, again this has been discussed. So, I am not going to stress this thing more. Every data link layer node has an address called MAC address. An Ethernet card, when you install an Ethernet card, your machine has an Ethernet address. If you have a wireless card installed, you have a wireless address. Ethernet cards are pre-installed, okay, so you cannot change their addresses. Wireless cards are configurable in most cases. So, you can set your MAC address as you want. Okay. With that note, I will conclude what we have seen in this module. We looked at some methods of correcting errors, including Hamming code, then convolution code, then LDPC turbo codes, and then we have seen few other important jobs of data link layer, which we anyway have addressed in earlier modules. So, we have just browsed through them quickly. Okay. With that note, conclude. Thank you all.